What is going on, guys? Jack here, stage name Ninjak, and we are back with a new segment called Monday Meta Reviews. Real quick, before we get into it, if you guys are new to the channel, please subscribe. And if you're not, hit the like button. And even if you are new, hit that like button, everybody. It really helps out. I'm trying to grow this channel. I have a kid, and I'm still out here producing content for you guys, and even trying to increase the amount of content by providing this new segment called Monday Meta Reviews. So please hit the subscribe button, hit the like button. And now, without further ado, let's get into it. We are starting a new series, but I thought I would give a little bit of context, some updates, some news about what's going on with the channel and in my life. And so yeah, basically I'm a dad now, and that's a lot of work. It is. It's wonderful. It's absolutely amazing, but it is a lot of work. And I just found that the Nuzlocke was convenient that I could pause at any moment, but it was taking a lot longer to produce content than I expected. So I would spend something like 2 hours to produce 30 to 40 minutes worth of context. And I just realized that's not going to be sustainable, unfortunately. So I'm going to have to click pause / probably not return to that Nuzlocke, which is unfortunate because I was having a lot of fun. Like, I really enjoyed it. But I just don't have the time like I thought I was going to. It took a lot longer to do than I expected. Also, can we just appreciate the fact that, see how that nice glow to my face, little ring in the glasses? Yeah, so I bought a cheap little ring light because I had some videos at night where I was literally in the shadows. That was just terrible. I was like, okay, can't have none of that. But yeah, so not gonna be able to continue the Nuzlocke, unfortunately, just because it takes way more time to produce than I thought. So mad kudos to like A-Drive and these other people. Like, they put a lot of hours to get not that much content. But what is a Monday Meta Review? So basically, guys, I spend actually a lot of time watching high ladder battles. I define high ladder as 1500 and above, primarily because when you go to 1700, there's not frequently that much going on. But when I have the option, I like to watch preferably 1600s and above. But I spend like a fair amount of time watching battles just to stay up to date, to see cool stuff. And I just realized, like, holy cow, I've actually got like a pretty decent understanding of what is going on in the OU meta because I'm watching all these battles. I see cool sets, and I thought I should bring that stuff to you guys. I should talk about what I've seen, some statistics, and basically just talk about different things that exist in the meta right now. And so yeah, that's what I thought I would do, starting off with an analysis from Pikalytics. If you guys don't know what this is, Pikalytics is a site. I should go back to this. Yep. Pikalytics is a site, guys, where they pull in information from a whole bunch of different places. A lot of it is Showdown, but they've actually started to pick up VGC too, like from the console, which is pretty hype. And they just pull data on what is being used. And so I thought it would be cool to talk about what Pikalytics has found. I figured we could talk about what Pikalytics has found, my observations on the week-by-week basis, and then some heat sets I've seen, and maybe a feature where I say this is like the feature of the video, and this was a really cool thing I saw. So yeah, without further ado, why don't we get into the Pikalytics analysis? So guys, some context to this page. Pikalytics updates for Showdown every month. So this is a reflection of the previous month's statistics. Okay, so it can be a little out of date, but it's generally going to hold true. And they've got some cool features on here. So to start out, let's just look at what the top 10 most common Pokemon are in OU. In number 1 is not even remotely surprising, Landorus. And if you are in 1825 and above, so you're in those top tiers, there's over 50% chance that this is on the enemy team or your team. Or, you see what I'm saying? Every team has over 50% chance. What are those odds that neither of you has it? 25% then? It's only a 25% chance that neither of you has it. Corviknight, very popular. Not surprised. Heatran, Clefable, Dragapult. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I can't count. Toxapex, Ferrothorn, Tornadus, Tapu Lele, and Weavile are in the top 10. So this is not super surprising. I see a ton of these Pokemon, and it makes sense. I agree with that and think, yeah, that generally holds true. If we come down way down here, you see stuff like Mew, Torkoal, Hawlucha, Venusaur. Just kind of funny because I feel like I see a fair amount of Mews, like in more than 3% of my opponents, but maybe that's not actually true. That would be roughly 1 in 33 matches. I feel like I see in 33 matches. I feel like I see more than one Mew, so maybe that's changed lately. But yeah, so the top Pokemon are up here. So I'm gonna go ahead and say, here's a shock. If your team loses to Landorus, your team is garbage, because that thing is on everyone's team. Same thing with like Corviknight, Heatran, Clefable, Dragapult. These are very popular Pokemon right now. So if you pay attention to what these are, you see, I would call Landorus sort of an all-arounder. Generally, he can be, he's kind of like an offensive defense. I see a lot of the leftovers bulky set right now, but he can be pretty aggressive if he wants to. Corviknight's a defensive mon, Heatran's a defensive generally, Clefable defensive normally, but also setup. Dragapult offense, Toxapex defense, Ferrothorn defense, Tornadus, I would call him offense. He's kind of a pivot. I would call him offense. Lele definitely offense, Weavile offense. So I would say that right now it's pretty common to see what I would call balanced teams. Balanced teams are generally what I run into the most and what I've been seeing a lot of. So this kind of lines up with that you see a mix of defensive and offensive options in the top 10. Now, a cool feature on Pikalytics is you can actually click trends and see some interesting stuff. So I thought I would just talk through Landorus just for this episode. Try to keep these sort of short. I don't want to spend too long on this just because, you know, that would be a forever long video, and we don't want that. The idea is for this to be bite-sized, hopefully in the roughly 10 to 15 minute range. Basically, every single Landorus for all of time has had Earthquake, and that's not surprising at all. I mean, of course that's true, right? Every Landorus has Earthquake. It's a strong stab move. I don't feel like I need to say much more. A lot of them have U-turn. More of them have U-turn lately. So as compared to the beginning of the year, U-turn has been on the up and up. Stealth Rock has actually been on the decline, which I have noticed. I've been noticing more Landoruses that are rocking like U-turn knockoff Earthquake Toxic or U-turn knockoff Earthquake Defog. I've been noticing a number of Defog Landos without Stealth Rock or U-turn knockoff both. I have noticed that Stealth Rock has kind of declined in popularity, but it is still out. I mean, it's still on most of them, almost like over half of them, just not as much as it once was. Toxic has been on the incline, which, you know, I don't know how to interpret that, but it might suggest that maybe you're seeing more, you're getting less value out of Stealth Rocks as you are out of Toxic. Maybe you're fighting a lot of really bulky mons that you're having to wear down, things like Zapdos. Defog has actually risen pretty dramatically as a percentage in the last couple of months, going from 21 to 36%. Really, that's actually surprising to me. A lot of Landoruses are running Defog. Something to note, you click 1500. Oh, you have to re-go to trends. I had a feeling. It's going to change your trend. So we're looking at the top tiers of play, which I would say that is going to tell you better what the meta is. When you fall below 1800, 1760, you know, 1700, you're going to see a lot. Oh, I almost forgot my ring light. Now, currently it's not that bad, but still. So yeah, you're going to have a little more variability as you come down here, but 1800s and stuff, I would say that defines the meta a little better. It tells you what's more viable. Because you don't want to run stuff that's common in the 1500s but never seen in the 1800s, because that sort of tells you it's probably not competitively viable, and therefore you're kind of capping yourself. Knockoff has been on the rise, so not super surprised there. Stone Edge has been on the decline, which I'm not surprised. I very rarely run into Stone Edge Landorus now, and I think that's because, we'll show it in a second, Choice Band Landorus is not popular at the moment. So basically all these hyper offense, Swords Dance, the Suicide Lead, Explosion, Sub, Rock Polish, all this stuff is very unpopular. And if you look at items, you'll notice Choice Scarf is It's come up from 2 months ago, but it's still definitely way down from what it was at the beginning of the month. Same with Choice Band, it's been dropping pretty dramatically. Almost never see Focus Sash. And there are lots of leftovers and Rocky Helmet, which I mean, that makes complete sense to me. That's all I see pretty much. So yeah, Landorus, Picolytics, these are cool things to check out, guys, and use. And there's actually a team builder feature. I don't know if it works for overused or not. We can check. Yes, it does. That, I think, is going to cover it for our review of the Picolytics information. Maybe I'll take a look at one new Pokemon each week, and then at the start of each next month, we can look at what changes have occurred. So, without further ado, let's talk about stuff I've seen on Showdown. So, my observations of the meta right now. So I've just pulled up a game here. I have been noticing an increase in Trick Room. That has been my observation. I've been seeing a lot of Trick Room. So I've been seeing things like Alolan Marowak and Crawdaunt, like a lot, a surprising amount. I'm like, I don't feel like I run into it as much as I've seen it, but it's out there, guys, and there's a lot of Trick Room right now. And so you got to think about Trick Room kind of like hyper offense. I used to try to always like, oh, well, I'll just stall out their Trick Room turns. And you can do that, but if all you're doing is stalling them out and then letting something bulky come in and you haven't actually damaged or taken any value off of their Trick Room sweepers, you are not in a good spot. Because here's the thing, guys, Trick Room games, you don't get to turn 50 all that often. Okay, Trick Room is very much like hyper offense. So I've been seeing a lot of that lately. So if your team loses to Alolan Marowak or Crawdaunt outright, then you need a new team. Okay, because I've been seeing a lot of Trick Rooms. You need to pay attention for Trick Room and treat it like hyper offense. And it's tricky because you'll think like, okay, Crawdaunt's a big issue, but once I get rid of that, I can deal with the other ones. But then you'll see Lunar Dance Cresselia, which, by the way, guys, if you're fighting a Trick Room team and Cresselia comes out, do not waste your time clicking Taunt. Every single Cresselia, like on the face of in Showdown, every single one is running the Mentaler. So don't waste your time clicking Taunt. There's no point. Same with Hatterene, guys. Magic Bounce, it's going to taunt yourself. So whenever you see Hatterenes and you lead Landorus, don't click Stealth Rocks because they're probably going to swap in. Because essentially, guys, against Trick Room, you need to lead very aggressively because they're going to probably lead with something that clicks Trick Room. You need to take as much value out of it as you can, ideally knocking it out. Because it is really important that you remove their Trick Room setters so that they can't just keep bringing in what becomes a super fast Crawdaunt or a super fast Alolan Marowak or a super fast Melmetal. So it's really important to lead aggressively against Trick Room and to lead with something that can deal with the various Trick Room setters. And no, Taunt is not something that can deal with them because they're going to have Magic Bounce or Mental Herb a lot of the time. The only real exception is Porygon 2. I've noticed almost always runs Eviolite, of course. So you can taunt that, but I don't see that as a lead very often. So make sure that when you're fighting Trick Room, you're leading aggressive and you're taking value quickly. And go at it with a plan, guys. Like, they're going to come at you with a plan on their end. They're going to go, okay, I'm going to go this thing first, then this thing, then this thing, and I'm going to use Lunar Dance so I can get this thing in a second time. You need to know what your sacks are. You need to understand, okay, this is what I'm just going to have to give up when that thing comes in, but it's going to position me to get this in so that I can take more value than they did. And that's an important part of fighting Trick Room, guys, is knowing how... Don't just try to wait it out and take the beating, because you're not going to take that beating, like, almost ever. Like, if you're a stall team, for example, you're going to want hazards and to be Rocky Helmeting and doing other things to take your opponents out, because if you're just relying on something like Toxic, Lunar Dance is going to decimate you. Same with Healing Wish that Hatterene uses sometimes. So those are my observations on the meta right now. I've been seeing a lot more Trick Room. Seen roughly the same amount of stall and balance, I think. And I feel like I've seen a little less hyper offense than I was a little bit ago. So haven't been seeing as much hyper offense, but I have been seeing a fair amount of Trick Room. So those are my observations on what the meta looks like today. And now we're going to transition to a segment that I'm going to call Heat or Trash. where I talk about Pokemon that I've seen that had some cool sets, and you guys can decide, is this a heat set or is it trash? So let's go transition to that. All right, guys, first off on the list, I've actually seen this several times and with multiple people, so this might actually be becoming a new set. And it is a Serene Grace Leftovers Blissey. It actually uses Tri-Attack Flamethrower, Heal Bell, and Soft Boiled. So the concept here, guys, is Serene Grace increases the chances of secondary effects happening. And so Tri-Attack has a 20% chance to paralyze, burn, or freeze, which means essentially it's got a 7 1/3 chance. Nope, that's a lie. It has a 6 2/3 chance for either of these to happen, and by doubling it, you end up with a, what is that, 12, jumps to 13 1/3 chance to freeze, which is higher than any other move in the game. Unless I guess you had Ice Beam. I guess you could Serene Grace Ice Beam and have a 20% chance. But the idea is Tri-Attack gives you the ability to get multiple different status types, and it becomes a 40% chance on every Tri-Attack that one of the statuses happen. And they tend to run Flamethrower also, I've noticed. I think that's to help cover the physical weakness, increase your overall odds of burns. And yeah, it's a cool set. Leftovers is interesting. It really helps it out against things such as Tapu Fini, for example, I think. Now, obviously, these moves are not the best against Tapu Fini, but if you can survive past the terrain, you can just start Tri-Attacking and have a good chance of getting a pretty crippling effect, either paralyze or freeze on that Tapu Fini. So I've been seeing this, so be on the watch out for it, and if you want to use it yourself, I'm going to have these boxes in a poke paste in a link in the description, so go check those out. And if you make a team around one of these cool mons, put it in the chat. Put a comment, guys. Put it in the chat. I'm not streaming anymore. Leave a comment with a link to your team, and maybe I'll check it out if I like it. Moving right along, we have a cool looking Scolipede set that I've been seeing. This thing's actually been pretty neat. So it's Focus Sash Speed Boost, and it has Protect, Endeavor, Earthquake, Poison Jab. So what that means is your opponent attacks with, for example, Dragapult, Draco Meteor or something, and they think they're going to one-shot. It lives on 1, and I'm probably speaking, yeah, it's a normal type move, so I don't actually know if Endeavor hits Dragapult, but something comes out and attacks. Let's say Heatran comes out and Lava Plumes it and drops it to 1. Then it clicks Endeavor, dropping Heatran to 1, and obviously with Speed Boost and things like Protect, it almost certainly will go first and can drop Earthquake or Poison Jab to finish out whatever it's facing, and then drop Endeavor on the next mon to drop it to 1 HP. So this thing's like super cool, guys. Do be on the lookout for it, and if you see one, know that you might want to think twice before clicking that one-shot move. That said, I do want to point out I have also seen a Spikes variant where it's a kind of a lead that sets up Spikes and it does not have Endeavor, so it's not always this set, but I saw this a couple of times and thought it was pretty cool. I've also seen a sub Nasty Plot Shadow Ball disable Gengar with Black Sludge, which is actually kind of cool because I'd been running a sub Gengar much like this, but instead of disable, I'd been using Sludge Wave and found that it was really good, particularly against Stall, because things like Blissey that normally would kind of wall it can't deal with the fact that it sets sub and starts Nasty Plotting. Same with Toxapex, and by being able to nasty or sub, you can get 2 hits off on things that otherwise you wouldn't be able to. So that's really useful against regenerator mons like Toxapex or Amoonguss. So being able to get 2 attacks off instead of 1 helps to actually wear down certain opponents. And then of course with Black Sludge and Substitute, you're getting your HP back. And Disable plus Curse Body can be pretty disgusting. If you really want to move to not be allowed again, you just click Disable. This next one, guys, is super cool. So it's a Zoroark with Electric Seed, but it is run with the Tapu Koko on a Hyper Offense team with a Hawlucha with Electric Seed. And so the Zoroark disguises as Hawlucha, and it comes in and procs Electric Seed, strongly suggesting that it is in fact Hawlucha. And what's more is it will then click Swords Dance frequently while the opponent switches, really committing to this idea that, yes, I am definitely Hawlucha, and then drops the biggest knockoff of its life. What I've seen on it is knockoff plus Giga Impact. I have yet to see this last move, so I'm not sure what it is. If I had to guess, I would think something like a Sucker Punch to deal with Dragapult, which is a common answer for Hawlucha since it can get through Substitute. So my guess is something like a Sucker Punch, but it could be any of these other moves, guys. I haven't seen it. Super cool set. Really, really neat. I love how much they commit to convincing the opponent that it is, in fact, a Hawlucha. Next Mon is Arctozolt with Leftovers. I've actually been seeing a lot of this. I've seen a surprising amount of Arctozolts with Alolan Ninetales, and they're on generally Hail teams, or like Hyper Offense types. So pretty cool Mon, and what I've seen is Sub, Blizzard, Bolt Beak. I've seen Low Kick. Actually, that's not true. I've seen Low Kick. I do want to point out, I'm guessing on basically all of these sets for EVs. I don't know, but from what it looked like it was a max speed variant with lots of attack, and it just had Blizzard as a way to hit specially. So that was pretty stinking cool. No idea what the negative nature would be. I picked Naive for minus Spadef, but I really don't know. This Mon, y'all. This thing is actually hype. So I'm going to go ahead and give you my opinion. I actually think this is heat. I don't think this is trash. I think it's really cool, and I think part of why it works is its surprise factor. You expect the Calm mindset, and so you think like, oh, I can just go to, for example, Scizor and Bullet Punch, or, you know, do something like that, or I can go to my Ferrothorn and Iron Head or Gyro Ball. This bad boy is Cosmic Power soft-boiled with Charge Beam and Stored Power. So a common answer for these Clefs are Tapu Finis that like to come in and taunt and then spam Moonblast so that they can get rid of those buffs. But that is not as effective on this because it's going to be Charge Beaming you. So it's a super effective attack with a very high chance to raise its special attack. And thanks to Cosmic Power, both its physical defense and special defense get boosted. So this thing is pretty neat. I've seen it, I think from one user primarily, and I've seen it a couple of times, and it's done really well. It also is really good against opposing Clefable because it sets up on the Clefable, which is sitting there spamming Moonblast or something, and then you have the stored power option if you can get some charge beams off and just do a massive amount of damage. And this is good against those sort of uncommon, unaware Clefables who think, oh, I don't need to worry about all those boosts you have from charge beam. Stored power's base power increases for all of your stat boosts, so very, very strong. Good synergy with Charge Beam raising special attack. So this is a really cool set, and I've enjoyed seeing it. And last but not least, this is the Mon that I have chosen to be the highlight of this week's video because I thought this was hilarious and clever. And it is your boy Malamar rocking suction cups with block, rest, acupressure knockoff. This thing, guys, is the ultimate stall destroyer. Particularly against Toxapex is the thing I saw it set up on and do really well because you block a Toxapex and then you just start boosting the snot out of your stats. And assuming the Toxapex doesn't have haze, now if it has haze, this doesn't work. But if it doesn't, and I don't see that many haze Toxapex, I would guess something like 30%. I guess we can check it on here, can't we? Let's look at Toxapex and look at moves. Here we go. Wait, where'd they go? Oh gosh, this says 65%. I don't think that's true anymore. I don't see haze on that many of them. Anyways, this thing sets up on Toxapex is one example. I mean, it can set up on a number of things, and the idea is if they're gonna just toxic you, you just rest it off. So by using acupressure, you can boost up your stats like crazy. I'll admit, knockoff is a weird option to me. I guess the idea is to have a really strong stab attack so that when you... And the idea, guys, I mean, you acupressure all the way up. Like, max. And then you knock off and just decimate things. Some people had been... I had noticed they're like, oh, why not stored power? Which, it does learn. That does mean that Weavile is immediately immune to this, and Hydreigon, so I can understand the idea of not wanting to have any immunities to you. But yeah, super cool set. It was very funny to watch. They just boosted all the way up on a Toxapex. So that was pretty neat to see. That said, I'll be honest, I don't think this is actually that good, but I think it is super good if you can pull it off. And there may be better options than knockoff. I haven't really looked into it, but that is going to be the Heatmon of the week, Malamar to destroy stall. Kind of flubbed my outro, which was just awkward, so I thought I'd retry it. Hope you guys have enjoyed this episode of the Monday Meta Review, and I'll see y'all out there.